If you're listening on podcast, be sure to tune into Wild and Weird West Virginia for additional content on our YouTube channel.
Welcome to Wild and Weird Radio, a Wild and Weird West Virginia podcast. Welcome back to Wild and Weird Radio, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. That way you're alerted every time that we have new content coming out to you, which we have a lot coming. We've been busy on the cutting room floor doing some work here, and we've got some great content coming your way other than our shows. More stuff's coming, guys. You want to stay tuned in. If you're listening to us in audio, remember, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about it. And if you have the option to leave a review like you do in iTunes, go give us a 5-star rating and review, and tell everybody how much you love Wild and Weird Radio.
Because
and we know there's some of you guys out there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've been seeing it, so we know it's true.
Yeah,
so,
right?
Yeah, I mean, let's show everybody. Let's tell everybody.
And we're working out a cross-promotional thing right now. So first and foremost, this show is brought to you by Bigfoot Search Gear. These guys right here. And we're going to be doing some cross-promotional stuff with them here soon. And we're going to get some of their merchandise into your hands. So
cool. Does it help you actually find Bigfoot?
It might, man. I haven't worn it out in the field, but what I can say is it is extremely comfortable and movable. And I'll be wearing it out in the field.
Okay, but does it help you find Bigfoot?
I mean, it should.
It sounds like it'll help
it
you
gives
run
you at
from
least
Bigfoot.
a 27% increase in findability.
Then basically just running around naked in the woods, right? I mean,
yeah, it's better than that, you know.
Okay, cool. Wow. All right, you heard him, guys. I mean, Bigfoot Search Gear right there. I mean, that's no stronger of a endorsement is needed. This,
right?
Don't run naked through the woods. It's cold. Get some Bigfoot.
As a valid point. All right, guys. So as you can see, we've
tell
got
us what's going on here, Joe. What's going on?
We've got a special guest with us tonight, guys. We have the we'll call it the infamous.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
Wild and Weird news correspondent is joining us for an episode live and in person. Mr. Brandon Wills.
Yeah, I think everybody thought he was like an AI generated thing, or we just made him up. No, he actually does bombard us with news all the time. And we said, hey, come on. And we're going to do this really cool episode tonight about some stuff. And hey, would you like to do the news live? Kind of, recorded live. It's live for us. It's not for you.
And it works out that Brandon's actually into tonight's topic. So like it's going to help drive the conversation forward.
Works out great. So without further ado, let us tackle the old news.
All right, guys. So first bit of news is the saddest bit of news is that we had the unfortunate passing of Linda Godfrey, who passed away at the age of 74 due to complications from Parkinson's.
She was huge, guys. If you don't know her work, she is who brought the Dogman topic to the mainstream scene and made it what it is today. She introduced everyone to the Bray Road Beast and the Wolfmen, the Dogmen, and brought light to these reports that were coming in. And she took them seriously. She reported just the facts. She didn't lead the witnesses. She didn't run with anything. She just presented the data. She had several books that she had written, and they're just fantastic books. Oh, Brandon's got some copies there.
These are great books, by the way.
They were, and that was I Know What I Saw and Monsters
Among Us.
Monsters Among Us.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have I Know What I Saw. I need to pick up the rest of her books. But she was just a great and genuine person. We met her one time out on the road, and she took time to sit and talk to us. And she was just one of the nicer people that you'll meet, and she will be greatly missed.
I think one of my favorite things about her was she would document every encounter, regardless of if she believed the person or not.
Yeah,
I think that's
had some
important.
crazy ones in those books too.
And that's an important thing to do. When we just kind of ignore everything, we're just kind of doing a disservice to everybody who's experienced anything, really.
right.
Yeah, I think that's all of our goal is to always be remembered for the work that we do and the dedication.
Yeah, and she definitely will be. She's our prayers and thoughts go out to her family and friends. I know one of our good friends, Jay Bahochin, he was mentored by her and actually lived just down the street. And he's a good friend of the show. And, thoughts and prayers to his family and, of course, Linda's family.
Absolutely. Well, what else do we have in the news, guys?
We have something here from the Chestnut Ridge.
Well, we always have something from the Chestnut Ridge, don't we? And it's great to see it actually make a little bit of a buzz, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm scrolling through the article because I didn't have a chance to read it yet, but I do see Eric's name mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Eric's in there, Stan's in there. The usual band when it comes to the high strangeness on the Chestnut Ridge is listed there. And for those who don't know what the Chestnut Ridge is, all you got to do really is click on this little link, and we'll provide the link. It'll be down below in the thing. And you're also going to see that literally this first paragraph is literally right off of our podcast episode that we did on the Chestnut Ridge. I don't know if you read that or not, but that is exactly almost verbatim what I said when we did the episode. So, yeah,
you're right.
I think there's only certain ways that you can say it, or so many ways you can say it. That's what I'm saying. But I thought it was really interesting, and that place is weird. That's again before we.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. It is literally. It's the up north version of Skinwalker Ranch, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it really is.
Right on the border. So until we get a chance to go up there and report from it ourselves, this is some pretty good stuff. You can go read that. We know these guys. They're not making this stuff up. It's real.
Yeah, no, they're great people.
Yeah, it's absolutely. And you can just go back and check some of the other episodes. I mean, Stan is a longtime member on this show. He comes on all the time. I think he's been like, 3 times now, something like that.
3. Yeah, 3.
Yeah, he tries to come back at least once a year. So,
yep.
Great article. You can go over there and read that if you're interested in that kind of stuff. What else we got, Joseph?
We had a really weird sighting come out of California over on Highway 89.
Yeah.
They closed the highway because a bear that was walking on 2 legs across Highway 89 was struck by a vehicle, and it was killed allegedly. And for whatever reason, they closed the highway. Now I know here in West Virginia that it's fairly common to pass a black bear that's been struck on the side of the interstate. I know that last year when I was going to work, I passed one that had been hit on the 2-lane road. And just a couple weeks ago, Ron had somebody tell him about one that was struck on
literally while the show was going on. I got a text, and it was a friend of mine, and she was driving through, and she had seen what was a bear by the side of the road. And she actually wanted to go back and make sure it wasn't a Bigfoot, but we told her not to. So.
It's also common if you're driving through Charleston to almost hit a couple of homeless people, but
Yeah, you're not
That's
lying.
true too. Yeah.
That is very true.
Unfortunately, yes.
It's weird that they would close, because now if a pedestrian is struck, then they will shut down the interstate because you have to do a crime scene investigation and all that stuff, bring out everybody and shut things down. So it seems odd that they would shut this interstate down over a bear.
What have we heard? Anything else about this, Joe? I mean, has there been any more
Not
follow-up
that
on
I've
this at all?
seen
Because I saw nothing.
Today. As of today, I have not seen anything. That doesn't mean that there's not been anything, because it's one of those things where, like, it starts off as a buzzworthy news article, and then sometimes the facts will come out and the facts will get overshadowed by the buzzworthiness,
Right.
you know, and you'll never actually see the main article that'll get published, or any kind of addendums that are made.
Yeah.
So, but again, as of today, I have looked and I have not seen anything. So I can't say that there has been any other news come out from it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I just thought it was kind of weird because, you know, literally we just had this conversation a couple weeks ago, and then this article shows up, and it's weird timing. Yeah. But in that one, we know that it was absolutely a bear because, you know, we confirmed that ourselves, the one that happened here, not there.
Oh, yeah.
So
I bet the debunkers will bring up that story about that bear that was walking on 2 feet in like New Jersey or something a few years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, bears can do that.
Yeah, and we do have a bear that lives here in West Virginia.
They can,
and hunters have spared it several times. And it was born with a birth defect where its front limbs just didn't form properly, and it's just adapted to run on its 2 hind legs. And
oh Lord, it's a not bear.
Yeah, right. That's what we've laughed at and called it.
Skinwalker.
Oh man,
people have been leaving it alone. When hunters find it, they'll just kind of give it a pass, and because it's thriving. The bear's like 6 or 8 years old at this point, so it's doing well in its 2-legged format. But
in its 2-legged form, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway. We also had a confirmation again, this story that will never die for some reason. The FAA confirmed the UAP sightings seen by the numerous pilots over Kansas, September 27th, 2022. This was a pretty big sighting for those.
It really was.
Who are not familiar with it. And now you can go over, thanks to Black Bolt, and you can download the actual audio. And if you don't want to listen to the whole thing, which is like 30 minutes long, you can listen to, there's an edited version that you can get there and listen to that. There's a really good explanation for what was seen. I mean, not really explanation for what was seen, but a good explanation of how things were seen by multiple craft. And you can just make up your own mind on that. I mean, I don't know what it was any more than anyone else does. Almost like the stuff that we had filmed. We don't know what that was either. But it's data, and it's there, and there's not much else we can say about that. I know some people were saying that, it was just, misidentified this or that. Again, I think it was like, what was it, Brandon? 6 or 7 pilots from different air crews who had seen this. I mean, it's...
Yeah, well,
it's a lot.
You got to remember too. People think that pilots just see things all the time, but no, they're trained to debunk things for their own safety
and their career.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah,
especially these older guys.
Yeah, the older guys.
The older guys are still living in that world.
Yep.
They're like, we did this for 50 years. We're not going to change now. Why would I say I saw something when I've been keeping quiet for so long? And they're probably right, to be honest with you. I know that there's an open skies policy now if you see something to tell, but really, how many are doing that? Probably not too many. Not too many of the older guys anyway.
Yeah, they're not. A lot of them are still keeping their lips shut just because the old stigma that surrounded it.
That's right.
And we had what I found the most interesting tidbit of the news was about people being on the moon within the decade. That humans will be living on the moon within this decade.
Yep. And
is that not bizarre?
I think my feelings on this.
Yeah, I know.
And for those who don't, you need to ask yourself why. You need to ask yourself why now. And you need to also look at this and say, wait, we're going to the moon in a decade. Well, that means that we've been planning it for 2 decades. So we knew something 2 decades ago, didn't we?
Yeah.
Something that said we have to get to the moon. Now, everyone says today, well, that's just the Chinese. We're trying to beat the Chinese and the Russians to the moon. Why?
Honestly, like looking at this, I don't think this is going to be a survival-driven thing so much as it is going to be a mineral rights on the moon endeavor. I would almost bet they're going to go there to mine.
There's probably true, but we're also using the moon, and this is part of the mission. It is a stepping stone. That is the literal words in the article. That is the stepping stone. We set our base on the moon, and from the moon
then
we go to Mars.
Yeah.
So the goal is to get some people off this planet, and not to get them off the planet, to the moon and come back and forth, but to get them to Mars. Maybe.
Let me just make the list of people that we can send to the moon.
Well, let's send them to Mars, because the people who go to Mars, boys and girls, ain't coming back.
That's true. That's true.
colony 1. And I don't think people understand that. I don't think that they really get the vast importance of that. I mean, that's literally what happened here years and years ago, when we set sail across the ocean and we set up our colonies on the other continents,
At the time, they weren't sure where they were going to land, what they were going to land on, whether it was going to be habitable.
Right.
Because a lot of the westward expansion at that point, one of the ones that they landed on was Greenland. And if you know anything about Greenland, it's really inhospitable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, that there wasn't much else really known about the West. And how
there wasn't much known beyond the shore. I mean,
from Europeans anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm getting at. So we're back in the same boat again. We're literally sending boats out into the great unknown once more.
We're gonna take our smallpox blankets to the moon.
We probably are, and let's just hope it.
That or the moon's gonna give us moonpox.
Well, maybe someone is. What's the next great story? Well, the next great story is a great controversial story and very favorite of mine, especially in light of this episode, is the Karen Tepe super civilization announcement.
Yeah, it was really interesting, wasn't it?
That is interesting. And anyone who knows, anyone who listens to the show knows that we all have a deep fascination with this kind of stuff. But we are talking about an archaeological find that could potentially not so much rewrite history, but rewrite our concept of history.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. These finds, every time they occur, it challenges the paradigm of history. It challenges the schools of thought. And a lot of historians buck against it for whatever reason. And normally the ones that buck against it are the ones who have written theses and written books, and their name is attached to certain projects or historical finds. And because this one will essentially mean that they have to go back and rewrite their own paper.
Yeah.
It just kind of grinds them wrong, I think.
Well, we see it with other things. We see it here. We see it with some of the monuments in the Ohio Valley. Look at Serpent Mound. We talked about that before. It's the same thing. They have this bias, this predetermined bias that this thing is this and it will never be anything more. And they literally fight over that. Schools of thought over and over again, But, the uncomfortable realization is this, that Göbekli Tepe is old. Yeah. And it's far older than the civilization who our modern day archaeologists said built it. That's a fact. They will tell you this. Those people simply were not hunter-gatherers who built this thing. Someone had a vast understanding of astronomy and of construction and physics.
Yeah.
Engineering, all the above. Hunter-gatherers didn't do that.
Yeah, it's funny to me because they've been fighting since, 1994, when they finally admitted that Göbekli Tepe even existed.
Good point.
They've been fighting that, saying that it's not actually a civilization, and that the first civilizations didn't happen until Sumer happened. What was it, 5000 BC?
Yeah, I think around 5. Yeah, 4 or 5.
So this is more than doubling that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They're thinking that Karahan Tepe is 12,500 years old right now.
Now, mind that date.
That puts it to.
Mind that date.
That number.
That's all I'm going to say.
That number.
That number shows up more and more and more and more every single year, I think.
Yeah,
and I don't know if everyone's reading the same books, but here's the thing. They're quoting a number that they're not liking when the pseudoscientists say it. But they're saying it, so it's okay. But when the pseudoscientists say it, it's wrong. And they're racist. And how dare they say such nonsense? Yep. And I don't know if you saw that or not, but there was a huge debacle with Graham Hancock on Twitter. They're literally roasting him alive, calling him a racist, among other things, simply because they don't understand.
Well, I mean, they did the exact same thing to, Von Daniken.
Oh, yeah. Von Daniken went through complete hell, too. You're absolutely right.
They did the exact same thing to Von Daniken, 15 years ago?
Oh, no, longer than that.
Well, I'm saying like the internet did it.
Oh, they're always doing it.
Yeah, but the internet went after him and like labeled him as a racist and all that stuff. It's about 15 years ago.
Well, the whole thing, and we'll talk about that actually later, where that came from, because I think it's important. We actually got into a little bit of an argument with someone who was talking about that a few years ago, a journalist who wrote a piece about that, and we had addressed it and got some responses. But here's what we get from these people. They are biased 100%. They do not understand what they even know. Honestly, they only read a book and that's it. They can't think outside the parameters of those pages.
Well, yeah, because whoever said this, they were right.
They were right.
Instead of questioning, and there's nothing wrong with questioning. It's not. It's how we advance. It's how we go forward.
Yeah, you just don't want to go out and say 100% that's what this is until you know. That's
right.
What this is.
I mean, would you guys right now, if I came over to your house and I said, you know what, Brandon, that headache you got, I'm pretty sure you have ghosts in your blood. Here's some cocaine. Like,
well, this show just went wacky.
Well, no, for real, man. Like back in the Wild West,
no,
like,
that is true. You're talking about
Billy
back
the
when
Kid era stuff.
Coca-Cola, right?
Like cocaine was given to people for ghosts in their blood. Like it's not. Cocaine was used for everything. Oh, you got a toothache? Here's some cocaine. Oh, you got this? Just rub some cocaine on it.
Yeah.
And we don't do that anymore. And why? Because somebody
did in the 80s.
Said, you know what? There's probably a better way to go about this.
I think they did in the 80s. There's a whole subculture, very, very bright neon and sports cars and white suits.
Most of them worked on Wall Street.
Those people had no ghost in their blood.
Yeah,
believe me, my friend.
No, they might have had a little white powder on their nose, but that wasn't from a ghost.
But no, you're making an absolute valid point, all jokes aside. And I think that people do need to understand that. And I think, what was it Jesse used to say, the whole science progresses, pretty much
one
every
funeral
time.
at a time. Yeah.
Funeral at a time. Yeah. And what that means.
History and science. It's Sagan, Carl Sagan was who coined it.
Yeah.
And was that history would progress one funeral at a time.
And the thing about Sagan is that we also get that he's this great skeptic. He's a masterful skeptic, but he always asked and postulated these speculations. He raised the question himself.
Yeah, he did.
He literally created the problem in some of these cases.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That is how we should do things.
It is.
You create the problem and then you solve it.
But then he got defensive when the evidence started stacking up that, oh, wait, Dogon did what? How'd they do that?
Yeah.
Science.
Well, that wraps us up, I think, for the news desk here. And except we have started a new Discord. Right? Yeah. We started a little chat room. So anybody who's listening, go ahead and go over to Discord and search Wild and Weird Discord, and go join the page, and you'll be able to talk to all of us and everybody that's in there, and
maybe
give recommendations. You'll be able to just it's going to be a neat little hangout. You know, I know a lot of people are using Discord now and kind of moving away from Facebook and some stuff. And they're going back to these chat room style.
Gee, I wonder why.
Right. And so I figured because this is like our third Discord that we created, guys. In case y'all didn't know, we made one in 2018.
When we started.
Yeah, back when we first started. It was like, so 2017, we made a Discord. And it like, nobody was using Discord except for gamers and online D&D folk. So
no one wanted to see me blow myself up, you know, in Destiny over and over again.
Right. So, you know,
some did.
We've now got a Discord, and we're going to be doing some stuff with said Discord because we're going to be doing some stuff. We've got some expansions coming.
That's enough. And let's get on out of the news desk and save some of the good stuff because this is you talking too much. See, so ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned.
The next phase begins.
The next phase begins. Please stand by. And that is the end of the news.
You know, Ron, it is interesting that the Karahan Tepe information came out this week with the subject that you guys picked.
Oh, no.
Oh, these things happen. I'm pretty sure it's part of the Matrix.
This happens a lot, dude.
It does.
It happens a lot.
Synchronicity follows wherever we go. Someone out there in the audience right now, I'm going to be thinking of a number between 1 and 5. Ready? Here we go. What is it?
14.
3.
Brandon got it. Just 3. How many of you guys got 3? Hey, if you got 3, comment below. Hey, I got 3.
Go to the Discord. Put up the number 3.
No, don't go to the Discord. Do it right here. We need you guys to. We need you right here first. Right here.
We're making so many places. It's crazy.
What's really cool, though, I will say this really quick before we go into the topic. Massive amounts of thank you are still coming.
Yeah.
We are so close now that, I mean, we're under 100 from our.
Oh, yeah, we're under 100. We're almost there.
Max subs.
That close?
Yeah.
So if we can get everybody to just start listening now. And just, go listen for an hour, turn it on for an hour. Don't have to listen to it. Just turn it on and let it play. And, once we hit that magic number, man, it's going to be a whole lot better than Discord. I promise.
Oh yeah. It's going to get wild.
It's going to get wild and weird is what they told me.
This just, see, back in the beginning, we had this dream of starting the wild and weird. And now it is becoming a reality.
There we go. All right. And I think that's pretty good. All right. So let's go over to the topic. Joe, can you get serious for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get real serious real quick.
Don't get too serious. We don't want to get too serious.
Okay, we'll get semi-serious.
Semi-serious.
So, guys, this week, our topic, without any further ado, we're covering Atlantis and other lost civilizations. So, conveniently, with Karahan Tepe being in the news, the same week that we had planned this is just priceless.
Yeah, it's absolutely hilarious is what it is. So,
yeah.
But yeah, so there's all kinds of lost civilizations, you know, and we hear them from the Maya to the Indus region, the valleys, these places. There were these cultures, and one in particular was the Indus Valley region, and the societies of the Indus River Valley had been dated to the Bronze Age, guys.
Yep.
That's 3,300 to 1,300 BCE. It was located in the modern day India and the Pakistan region. And these guys, they knew their stuff. I mean, archaeological evidence suggested it was a highly advanced society and it had spread among many cities and towns. So they were very civilized is what we're getting at. They were so civilized, in fact, that they kind of had their own writing language. There was separate from other areas, which they think they actually evolved it themselves.
So basically, this was kind of like your first HOA was developed here.
Yeah, you like that, right? Yeah.
You had people that
Hmm?
were like, okay, we need to start our own form of writing to differentiate ourselves from these peons out here throwing stones at one another, and we are going to become more sophisticated.
Which is what they did.
It is.
But the strange thing is, by 1800 BCE, which is beyond, what is it? Before the Common Era for you people who don't like BC anymore. 1800 BCE, people began to abandon the cities, and no one has a clue why they did this. We saw the same things out west, you know, and near the homelands of the whole Anasazi out there, you know, the cliffs. But no one knows why all these people just left. They just left, or they were absorbed by other tribes or what have you.
Right.
Another great one, Easter Island. We've talked about that a lot. Yeah.
Easter Island, we had this civilization that was extremely well documented, that was extremely this beautiful at one point until it was completely timbered flat. And you have this semi-tropical island, and it was originally inhabited by the Rapa Nui. And they think that they were experts in making wooden outriggers, because to do this kind of stuff, you would to move island to island back then, especially in these tropical kind of seas, you're dealing with rough waters.
Oh yeah.
So you're talking about a group of people who are fantastic woodcrafters, woodworkers. They were building these boats, these rafts, and they were taking outrigger canoes and moving island to island, and eventually settled in Easter Island. And at one point, it's estimated that island's population was around 12,000 people.
Yeah. Now think about that. 12,000 people, Joe.
And this is a small island. Easter Island isn't big.
It's a small island. Yeah.
Yeah. So 12,000 people on this island, that's substantial. That's a lot of people. And then to go from 12,000 to essentially a ghost town.
2,000 to 3,000 inhabitants when it was discovered on Easter Sunday in 1722.
You're talking, 14, 15% of remaining people.
Eventually, on further expeditions to the island, only 100 people. They just kept dwindling and dwindling and dwindling and disappearing. Current view is that they used up their trees and whatnot. And like you said, they traveled beyond, they left the islands. And that's possible, I suppose. But we are talking about, a people who worshipped the Birdman. So
they did. They worshipped the Birdman. And then they also, we're all familiar with the Moai. And, they built these massive heads and positioned them on the island, all facing.
Not only heads, Joe. Not only heads.
They're full bodies. They're full bodies. Yeah.
Yes.
They were buried.
That's more impressive.
Weren't they like a giant version of the tikis that you see in Hawaii?
Sort of. They remind you.
I've got one right here. Hold on.
Yeah, they remind you of that. And it's also important to mention that some of the early explorations of the island do say that they were people of giant stature who were seen on the shores of Easter Island at one point. And then nothing. Like it's pretty a fantastic place, but literally it's a great example of, a civilization just literally disappearing.
I had one, but it disappeared.
See,
it got up and walked
they
away,
do
just
that.
like it happens in Easter Island.
Just like the Rapa Nui, it has vanished as well. Returned to the stars from whence it came.
All of these megalithic structures essentially were standing there kind of with their arms down to their side, kind of cradling their belly.
Looking out.
And looking outward, watching
outward. Yeah. Ancient astronaut theorists have their theories, but, the common thought is that perhaps, just perhaps, and this is probably just me because I've had a house guest for a bit now, and she has a little child, and the little child likes to watch Moana. And after about the 1,000th time of watching Moana, you start picking up on these things that Disney put in there. Perhaps, just perhaps, they did leave their island to go settle on different places, and they left the
to point the way.
Yeah, right. Like maybe they were looking out so they would know to come back home. I don't know. It's just one of those things.
If I remember correctly, too, the inhabitants told the first explorers that there had recently been a civil war where a group wanted to destroy the statues, and they had actually destroyed a few of them. They became terrified of them for some reason, but nobody really ever clarified why.
Yeah, I'm going to go with aliens. For the win.
They began to resonate and buzz. Their eyes lit up.
Hey, you laugh, but if you remember the whole Josh Gates situation.
No, yeah, Josh.
That was the first UFO, I believe, legitimate UAP.
Yeah, that was
UFO.
filmed on TV.
Yeah, in high definition.
Yeah.
That was on Easter Island?
It was on Easter Island, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they were on Easter Island. That's not what they were looking for. They were doing an investigation.
It was one of the coolest moments too, because you see it come in and hook a hard 90-degree angle.
It was great. And it was caught by the most skeptical camera guy.
Yep.
Like he tried every way to, yeah, he couldn't do it. So anyway, those are some of the accepted accounts of these lost civilizations, guys. But and
these are more modern civilizations in respect.
Yeah. I mean, in respect to these thousands and tens of thousand-year old possibilities of these places. So let's go back in time even further, and let's go to some of the most famous ones, and let's start with the place that I literally did my very first report on in school. It was in grade school, and we had to make a diorama, and it was a little shoebox diorama. If any of you people ever made one of those? I mean, I'm sure you have.
Oh yeah.
Well,
especially like the night before they were due.
Oh,
I know you guys.
Well, yeah, I'm sure.
We know how it went.
But
we were all there.
Some of us actually did, read their book and, channel information from ancient beings within, I guess. But whatever it was, I decided to do mine on Atlantis. And so.
Oh yeah, I know this. That's Namor, got the wings on his heels. No. Oh yes.
No, it was
people, blue-skinned people. It's great, man. I love Atlantis.
Aquaman on his seahorse.
No. So anyway, lost civilization, and I built this little temples
I read the book,
under
man.
the water and whatnot. And anyway, the whole point is that, at a very early age, I was fascinated with lost civilization. So when you said we're going to be doing a lost civilization episode, and
Oh yeah, and the Atlantis topic and all of these lost civilizations are something that has fascinated actually all three of us for a very, very long time.
We could do several shows just on Atlantis alone, but this is just a primer, basically.
Because these will be included eventually in the Fallen World series.
Mm-hmm.
So like Ron said, this is definitely going to be just a primer, getting our toes dipped into the topic here. And Plato was actually the main reason that we have any kind of record at all.
I love Play-Doh.
Out of two, you can form it into everything.
Yeah, just don't eat that stuff.
You can make worms. You can press it.
Did you ever have that one where you put it in the little meat tenderizer thing? And
dude, I've been trying to find one of those for my kid.
Yeah, those were cool.
I want one. I want one of those because Rowan loves Play-Doh, and And next thing we're going to do is just find some Socrates and we're good.
Oh, man. Anyway. Yeah. So back to the real Plato. Go ahead and tell that story. Because
I got that joke.
It never gets old.
What is it, Brandon?
I just got the Socrates joke.
Yeah, you got to stay on your toes with him.
Excellent.
Oh, God.
All right. So, Plato said that he had heard the story of Atlantis from his grandfather, who had heard it from an Athenian statesman, Solon. This is roughly about 300 years before Plato's time. And he had learned it from an Egyptian priest. who had said it had happened 9,000 years before that. So we're talking 9,300 years, ballpark, prior to Plato's arrival and Plato's telling the story.
What is that magical number that hovers around?
Well, that puts us now, today, at around 12,500 years.
Thank you.
So
it's just a coincidence, guys. It's okay.
It just always happens.
It's just a coincidence.
We can't help it. We don't plan these things.
No, it's just a coincidence.
So
nothing to see here.
He described Atlantis as being a powerful and advanced society, a kingdom that sank, and it sank in a night and a day. So that means roughly about 16 hours is as far as that time goes. When they would say something that took a night and a day, it referenced normally between 12 to 16 hours historically. Mm-hmm. I'm a nerd. Sorry.
It was obliterated, literally, is what you're saying.
It was obliterated.
Wiped off the planet. Gone.
Yes.
Under the
sank
water.
Into the ocean, some say. Mm-hmm. And the ancient Greeks were divided on whether or not Plato's story was to be taken as history or just a metaphor for some kind of horrible happening that could take place if they didn't abide by a certain set of rules.
Yeah, it was very tied up in a political statement. One could almost see it as a debate among politicians, sort of, or statesmen. That's
just using a parables in the debate.
Yeah. And I don't think it can be just laid aside. I don't think he made up the whole fact that the tale was told to him by.
Right.
So I think that's wishful thinking.
Well, up until 1924, every one of those theories that we knew as a great society, as the Western civilization period, all we knew of Atlantis up to 1924 were just Plato's accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Until a world-renowned psychic, Edgar Cayce, they refer to him as a sleeping prophet.
Yeah, Cayce is another one that we're going to do a whole show on eventually.
Yeah, Edgar Cayce needs a whole show.
An amazing person. So anyway,
so he started the series, and it focused on the mythical city, and he would make these claims that the Atlanteans were far more superior than we could ever imagine, that they had this far advanced technology in comparison to what we even have today. And these, like I said, these statements were made in 1924. Here we are almost in 2023, 100 years later. And he was mentioning technologies that were more superior than current day. Yeah,
literally, he was. And one of those technologies is, which may have been the demise of the entire civilization, was a thing called the Taoe stone, or the fire crystal. Now, the power source, it was the power source, and it was also a power for rejuvenation of the people. And if you think about this, we have to think back a bit about some of the other things, like, the creation of the integratron, things like this, where this new age, as they called it, technology was being used to benefit humanity. Not build these weapons and destroy ourselves, but to actually build and better the human body, mind, spirit, et cetera, et cetera. And that's kind of what these people were doing until they did become corrupt. And when they became corrupt, they somehow managed to destroy themselves. And like you said, it was literally day and night, But Cayce also made the predictions that the Hall of Records, which contained our lost history, would be found in Egypt. And he says that the Atlanteans actually went to Egypt. Now, it's not clear to me that if the Atlanteans went before this catastrophe, like,
it almost seemed like the surviving Atlanteans. Like,
that's what I'm thinking.
When you listen and read, or not listen, but read some of the stories, it almost is implied that the surviving Atlanteans migrated to Egypt, and that they helped with the construction of all the megalithic structures there.
Which goes into the legend of, the nine, of the those superior beings who went all around the world, literally, and benefited. They gave technology. They helped these other people. Again, it's probably not true. Don't worry. I'm not going to wreck your paradigm.
Well, if you look at the Egyptian archaeological record too, they go from being like people who build stick huts to building early pyramids. Like all of a sudden, it's like, why do they suddenly start wanting to build pyramids? How did they become mathematically advanced enough to do that all of a sudden? It's like, I think it was around 9,000 BC or so when they first started building things like that. Kind of odd how that, It's
very interesting, isn't it? Again, you're dealing with that magical number because, again, 10,000 to 12,000, that is when, Atlantis was said to have gone down, right? So 12,000, something like that.
Yeah, they were building things before they even had written language.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Before they even had hieroglyphs.
Advanced structures. Not just...
Yeah.
Not
have
like mud huts and stick huts. They were building advanced structures.
Yeah. Have any of you guys ever tried to build something like on a big scale without just sketching it out? Or even having a concept of, measurement?
Yeah. It's difficult.
So this is,
it's really
thousands
tough
of
just
people.
To pull something out of thin air.
Well, that's one person. I mean, you might be able to wiggle around and do it, but how do you get one person to control thousands of people to tell them what to do without any way of writing it down, without any way of giving those instructions?
And you'd be really hoarse at the end of the day, but that's the only way it would possibly work, is if you had somebody walking around and curating it.
Yeah, lots of screaming.
It's just not feasible.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're right about that. But
I think people forget too how old Egypt is. Because King Tut was the last of a bloodline that was over 2,000 years old by the time he was alive. And that was 2000 BC.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
I mean,
a long time.
We're talking about an ancient people here, cradle of civilization, the whole thing, the whole, Mesoamerica. This is all of this stuff. These are in my opinion only, these are the same descendants. These are the same people who the Mesoamericans would have eventually descend from, in my opinion. Not anyone else, but my opinion. Okay. So whether you believe that or not, you have to explain to me how all these pyramids started popping up around the world. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, they start popping up everywhere. It's not just in Egypt. They were popping up in like the Mesopotamian area. They were popping up in there were some that were built out.
Mesoamerica, China, Japan.
Yeah,
Russia.
all the way out into the east, Russia. Here,
Cahokia. Yeah, exactly. So, and here we may say, well, South America is connected to, the North America. So that's possible.
Yeah, you're like, that tracks.
But when we're talking about Europe and Africa and China, I mean, come on. What? How?
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
How?
Like, it goes back, you have to say that 12,000 years ago, before the end of the Ice Age, everybody was just able to walk all around everywhere. Or there was some form of migration that is beyond our historical knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. There had to be something, right? Because it's there. It's kind of like Göbekli Tepe. It's a mystery. It's there. We don't understand it. It shouldn't be there, but it is. And,
There's that civilization or that whole city that was found well off the coast of Florida, between Florida and the Caribbean, not too long ago. It's the earth changes. The earth has been in a constant state of flux.
Mm-hmm.
And we're dealing with this region, if Plato's stories are to be viewed as canon and historical canon, then we're looking at an island that was in the shape of like a semicircle.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it was an island. This is an archipelago. The way that was drawn out, this would be an archipelago, which means that it, at the foundation, it sets at sea level. And when sea levels change, the very first things to be affected are these sea level places.
That's right.
Archipelagos and small island chains are the first ones to experience extreme drastic change with just inches of water volume.
Mm-hmm.
And we're dealing now with something that dates back to 12,500 years ago. This is before the ice caps melted off. And we're sent millions and millions and billions of gallons of water back into the oceans. These islands, this city, this civilization that we call Atlantis could very well have been setting somewhere as an archipelago, as Plato stated, and just was erased after a cataclysmic event that may or may not have occurred 12,500 roughly years ago. When there was a massive destructive force that hit our planet and caused a great melt.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, and it's really funny because people are, a lot of mainstream scientists are now running away from that after they embraced the Younger Dryas impact theory for so long. Now they're running away from it. It reminds me so much of how they did with the whole dinosaur thing. As I was growing up, it took forever for them to say, oh, yeah, the dinosaurs were killed. Here's where we found the crater. And even today, there's still people who say, no, that didn't happen. That's not what killed the dinosaurs. They died from methane poisoning. I don't know. But anyway, the whole point is people change their minds over time, and it eventually gets accepted. But
I think dinosaurs just got pitched off the planet because it's flat. And a shooting star or something just blew by too fast and just sent it.
There was a giant cat that showed up and just swept them off the table.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, I can see that. Space cat. Proof that the Earth is flat. He's Space Cat. Uh-oh.
No, it all goes back to that.
It's mine.
It's copyright. It all goes back to that point in history that is extremely contentious. And it is very possible that there were an advanced civilization and another advanced civilization beyond Atlantis.
Well, before we leave Atlantis, let's not forget there are people who believe that Atlantis was found, Joe. In multiple places. And one of the places is where Casey actually said it would be found.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is even more amazing and gives a little bit more credence to some of the things the man said. So there are people who do believe that, in fact, it was near the Bimini. And when they found the Bimini Road, the Bimini Road is a structure of Atlantis. There are still the archaeologists and skeptics who say that, oh, that's just, that's nature. That's, I guess kind of like the Baltic Sea anomaly. They're doing the same thing with it now.
They are.
It's like, oh, that's just natural. And okay, because I've seen things like that in nature, haven't you?
Yeah, I've seen it all the time, man. Yeah, all the time. I see these massive structures underwater that look like crashed UFOs.
Yeah, come on.
Maybe that's a secret. Maybe somebody should tell Bob Bigelow there's a crashed UFO near Bimini.
Hey, there's an idea. Bob, hey Bob,
if you're listening.
If you're listening, and you might be, I don't know, but if you're listening, there's a possibility you might want to get out there. But so anyway, Casey did believe that it was in Bimini, and he referred to Bimini as one of the mountaintops of the ancient Atlantis continent. You see, and it goes with what you just said.
Yes.
So while if you would consider that the islands are of a mountain, 12,000 years ago, it was one of the highest points. It's kind of like where we live now.
Yeah.
We've had this discussion about Appalachia. It's the same thing.
It is.
They were just little tips, right, of these mountains that were there.
Yeah.
And all it takes is just a little water and they're gone. So as the water comes back down, there you have it. But yeah, you're right, man. There's just so much that, we could just go on forever about Atlantis, and we
could. Atlantis Atlantis deserves its own show. But again, we'll cover Atlantis and this next advanced civilization that if you jump the continent and over into the next ocean, the Pacific Ocean, in fact, we're dealing with another legendary civilization referred to as Lemuria.
That's right.
Lemuria to me is just almost more interesting than Atlantis.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that lay claim to Lemurian lore. You know, you have the Samoan people and the New Zealanders that will speak about some of their stories and about Lemuria and how their people were descendants of folks from Lemuria. And it's theorized that this would have been in the Pacific Ocean or the Indian Ocean, but most claims, most theories do point to the Pacific Ocean. And again, we're dealing with another continent that is an island that was sitting out in the middle of the ocean. And it could have been there. It very well could have been there. And then, just like Atlantis, erased by the very same melt. So the concept of Lemuria was developed in detail by James Churchward. He referred to it as Mu.
Yeah, he did.
And Mu is a mythical lost continent referred by Augustus Lee. I'm going to butcher that last name.
Plongeon.
Oh, it's French.
I think it's French. Plongeon, I believe.
So like Augustus Lee
Plongeon.
Who identified the land of Mu with Atlantis. He viewed them as the same place, which there are a lot of people that do think that Atlantis and Lemuria are one and the same.
Because they all have the similar stories, as you find out. So the name was subsequently identified with the hypothetical land of Lemuria, like you said, by James Ward. Now James Churchward was the guy who really put this thing on the map.
Yeah.
He's the one who wrote the book, and it really put Mu on the map. But what really, I guess, started it all was that Churchward wrote a book, and it was called The Lost Continent of Mu, The Motherland of Man. And that was in 1926, Joe.
Yeah.
So, you know, when we hear all these people today and they're like talking, you know, about the ancient astronaut theory and all this and how, you know, oh, it was Eric von Däniken, you know, no, this stuff is ancient.
Yeah, it goes on back.
Yeah. And these guys got these stories from people who got them, you know, from years before, kind of like Plato, you know, and the whole story of Atlantis. But the whole story is that while Churchward was a soldier in India, he once befriended a high-ranking temple priest, and this guy had access to records that were written on these long, these clay tablets. They were fired brick clay tablets, is what he said. And it was a long-lost language known as Nagamaya. Now, what's great about this, there was only 2 people on the Indian continent who could read this language. He was one of them. So Churchward wanted, you know, to learn how to read this. So he begged his friend to teach me, you know. And in exchange for helping to preserve those artifacts, he taught him. And so he eventually deciphered the clay tablets, along with 2,500 stone tablets uncovered in Mexico by William Niven. Now, Churchward claimed that Mu was located in the Pacific Ocean, east-west from the Marianas to Easter Island, and north-south from Hawaii to Manjaya. I don't know. Is that right? Manjaya? That's right. Yes, Manjaya.
Oh, that's a long stretch.
I know. And it's a massive area. This is a massive...
Maybe Manjaya or Mangaya.
Mangaya. Okay.
Maybe.
I don't know. We like to butcher names here.
We do.
On the show, if you haven't noticed. But
we Appalachify everything.
We go.
It's the accent.
We get we take
Mangaya.
It's island. It's an island out there in the water. It's got sharks swimming around.
Mangaya. Isn't that what old Greg talked about?
Oh, geez. Anyway, so it was known, according to what Church Ward had stated as, and I love this quote, the place where man first appeared. That was what Mu was referred to. So the continent was larger than South America, which we figured that out by the massive amount of space it took up. It was inhabited by a far superior race of beings known as the Nakal, who, according to Church Word, had flourished between 50,000 and 12,000 years ago.
So what happened 12,000 years ago?
I don't know, but before that, 50,000 years, they were there, and 12,000 years ago, they're gone. I mean,
they flourished during the Ice Age.
There's that weird number again, 12,000.
Yeah. 12,500 years ago. So right there at the end of the Ice Age.
Yeah. Weird, huh?
Suddenly.
So, but at the time, Mu had I want you guys to hear this, 64 million inhabitants. They had 7 major cities. They had colonies around the globe, and there were 10 tribes, and everyone followed the same government and same religion. It was pretty much like this big paradise is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it was very utopian.
Very utopian. Or was it? Maybe it was like the Empire. I don't know.
Could have been like the Empire.
Right. They may have not wanted to. Maybe that's why it fell in reality. But anyway, the continent was believed to be flat with massive plains, vast rivers, rolling hills, large bays, and estuaries. He claimed that according to a creation myth that he read in the Indian tablets, Mu had been lifted above the sea level by the expansion of underground volcanic gases. Eventually, Mu was completely obliterated in almost a single night. There's that again. After a series of earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, this is the quote, the broken land fell into the great abyss of fire and was covered by 50 millions of square miles of water. What's that sound like?
Sounds like suddenly there was a big melt of ice cap, of glacier ice, that suddenly filled the oceans.
Well, there's a lot of water came from somewhere, right?
A lot of water came from
I think
somewhere.
we've already proven.
A lot of these creation stories
1,200
lead right into a flood myth.
Over 1,200. That is significant.
Well, we know from Santorini that volcanic explosions can cause gigantic tsunamis also.
Yeah, they can.
They can also cause global warming.
Yep.
Global what now? Sorry, I had to do that. You mean nuclear winter?
Oh, that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of what we're looking at here, isn't it? And, it's really important that we do discuss these little things because archaeologists say, of course, it couldn't exist, guys. I mean, there's evidence. There would be evidence there of this massive, it's bigger than South America, for God's sake. Where's it going to go?
Well, what's funny is that after Santorini exploded too, the people came back like a week later, and there was absolutely no evidence that there were anybody who ever lived there because it was covered in so much ash and debris.
Wow. It's almost like...
Almost like some of these stories could be plausible based off of things
science?
That you know can happen.
Right.
Did science just say that this could be possible?
Don't say that too loud.
Right.
You have people coming out of the woodwork.
All right. I don't believe that. I believe that's a lie. This is all lies. Probably by the devil.
It's the devil.
The devil. Anyway.
So
we can't be too serious all the time, guys.
Yeah.
For you people who are like, what are they doing? Are they like drinking tonight? Nope.
No, we're having fun because
nope, we're not.
This is a topic that we've gone over quite a bit, and not necessarily Atlantis and Lemuria and all that, but just the devastation of these civilizations by some catastrophic event that took place 2,500 years ago and led to a massive global reset. Yeah. And there's so many people out here who will sit and debate and fight and argue over this topic that it makes us literally just want to pull our hair out and say, look, we're not trying to tell you what to think. We're not trying to tell you that this is exactly what happened. We are literally looking at the data, coming at it from not a religious standpoint, coming at it from not a spiritual standpoint, but coming at it from an actual scientific standpoint of.
But Joe, you can look at it from all those standpoints too.
Well, no, you can, but like at the core,
it still says the same thing.
It does. It still does say the same thing, but we come at this from an actual position of big ice, big heat, big heat melt, big ice, big ice make big water flood land.
I mean, it's pretty much A, B, C, D.
Yeah, it's like so simple to grasp, but people sit and bicker.
But I think it terrifies them.
Yep. Well, because it could happen again.
Yeah, and it will. I mean,
it's just a matter of time.
Being like, some prophet of doom, but it will. It has happened. It's happened multiple times, over and over and over and over again. There are those accounts. We'll get into that later again. But before that, I promised you that I would try to explain to you this whole thing about, why they're attacking, Graham and Hancock and the whole, I guess, discourse that we had a few years ago with this gentleman who basically told us that all ancient astronaut theorists are racist. Because we think that the white whatever beings were here. Well, here's the funny thing. First of all, and archaeologists will tell you this as well. They will ignore the stories, however. They will flat out ignore the stories. But they will tell you, yep, the tribal leader from this tribe said there were pale-skinned beings here before they got here. And that's, legend. So they can't really come at that and say 100% that they're verifying. But again, we know that this happened. The Nordic people were here. At the last time I checked, they are fair-skinned people.
Well, even just last week, there was a huge breakthrough. We didn't go over it with the news, but there was another settlement found that was a Scandinavian, a Northman settlement that was discovered, and it was discovered. I think Brandon, you sent it to me on Facebook, wasn't it? Down somewhere near Tennessee.
Yep.
Which is so much farther south than what anyone had thought for the last 75 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like there's been evidence of them sailing all the way to Michigan.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's true.
Nobody wants
true.
to accept that.
It's true. And I that has nothing to do with racism. That has nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with what's called common sense and science. I'm sorry, it does. You can talk to anyone who knows anything about the migration of these people. They may not like to admit it, but the Norse were here. Yeah. There's too much evidence that says that they were here at some point and made pre-contact. So, but that's not where the whole thing comes from, really. It comes from the fact that a very, very bad group of people, a very extremely bad group of people, decided that they were going to hunt down one of these ancient legends of the origins of humanity. And basically, that was part of the Thule Society.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what that is, that was Hitler's bunch of loonies who became obsessed with the occult and tried to figure out ways to literally take over the world. And I kid you not, they were using every means possible to do that.
They were.
And we're talking witchcraft,
all these esoteric means, everything.
Yep.
They were looking for Christian relics, evidence of Atlantis, blah, blah, blah.
The Thule Society is when people mention Nazis and the occult, this is the Thule Society. Mm-hmm. All these conspiracies link straight back to those guys.
Mm-hmm. And, the whole thing is the Nazis needed this story. So what better place than this island? And it did appear on some ancient maps, guys. I mean, it's there. Whether it was real, whether some sailor just decided to have some fun with some people and draw this thing, I don't know. But in 1539, there it is. There's an island there. So the Nazis said, "Oh well, this was the island where the first Aryan race came from, and they were all descended from it." Oh, come on. You don't even know what you're descended from. Trust me. You have no idea. There are no purists on this planet. We don't even probably come from this planet. That's my own opinion. I'm sorry if it offends you.
Aliens.
But, yeah, exactly. Aliens. Michael Carter was on here. And I think one of the best things, you go back and listen to that episode, but one of the best things he said was, everybody wants to fight about being right and being wrong. And, the thing is, they're all right and they're all wrong.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's the existence of this whole thing. They're all right and they're all wrong. But yeah, that's where the whole, the whole racism thing came from. It came from the Nazis and their association with this. And then a few people who just wanted to bury this topic forever. They found ways to where they could literally say, "Oh, well, if you're believing in that, then you're one of them." So, and basically became witch hunt. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yep.
So I don't like witch hunts.
It's just another way to delegitimize the whole thing.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
It is. And when you get into witch hunts, you really get to the point to where you have this division. Now, it's important to ask yourself why. Why are we so afraid?
Well, one of the things that I believe that makes it so controversial, so difficult for people to swallow, is the confirmation that it creates.
Oh, and to be clear, you're not talking about anything Nazi related. You're talking about the confirmation of, just in case some people are, deciding that making
completely off topic from the Nazis. We're separated from that.
We're away from the Nazis at this point, guys.
That.
So you want to read more about that? You go read more about that yourself.
If you want to go look up that, you can go for it. There's tons of other people that talk about it way in depth, and we're just skimming the surface because that's all it deserves.
Yep.
So the whole thing that this topic does, the reason it's so controversial, I think, and the reason that it presses some of these buttons is the confirmation that it incites. It essentially, irrefutably will say, if these things are true, then these religious stories, be it Judaism, which, that's same religious stories as Christianity, but the Judaism, be it the epics of Gilgamesh, be it any of these other 1,200 different flood stories that took place all around the same time, it gives them credence, which means that if those religious, because they're all viewed as religious texts, but they're all viewed as historically accurate by those who follow said religions. And if it means that those are right, because it's really the first mega story, it's the first big story in the majority of these religions, how much of the other stuff in those books will have to be looked at with a little more than a grain of salt?
Right. Absolutely. I think that's important. That's a great, a great point that you just made. I mean, we are approaching one of my favorite times of year when we all celebrate, most of us here
when we stuff people in baskets and beat them with sticks.
No, we celebrate
the pooping logs.
No, a star. Oh. The star that appears and leads people. Now, where have I heard that story before? There are stars that literally show up and lead tribes all throughout these ancient myths. These myths, they're not myths, guys. They are stories. They're legends. They're passed down. They may be half-truths. They may be embellished from time to time. But there is a central core to these things. There is truth in these stories, in my opinion.
There's a little bit of truth in that lie sandwich, right, Ron?
I don't even call this a lie sandwich, though. I just call it a scramble. It's almost like it's just a Swiss cheese is what it is. It's like someone just got it, put it in a blender, and this is what came out, and some of it is so fantastic because they were literally trying to describe these things in words that they only had in their day.
Right.
I mean, and it is what it is. I mean,
it's very
like
plain.
Yeah.
It's like your grandma wants help with her cell phone, and she's trying to explain to you what's wrong with her cell phone.
It's a good point, man.
The same thing.
It's a good point. But Joe, I mean, I'll say this: we were out there, when we were doing our observation, and we were tracking the UAPs with the thermal. What do those look like to you?
Yeah, they look like stars.
They look like
I
stars.
even mentioned it a few times in the recording that the only thing these can be compared to would be the intensity of brightness of a star.
Yeah, stars.
Aren't there some Native American stories that say the stars fell out of the sky?
The days the stars fell, yeah, and that's also relevant to the event, the Younger Dryas event. It was the great cataclysm. It was the day the stars fell. Yeah, but there's also the legend of after the emergence of the Hopi people that they were told to go and they would come back, and when they knew where their home would be. When they would follow the star would show them where their home would be, and that's got a lot of similarities to it as well. And I think that's one of the reasons I love the Hopi legend so much. Speaking of which, I want to read that one part of the Hopi legend because it relates back to what we had just said. Remember everything we just said about Atlantis, Lemuria. All right, this is important. So this is part of the legend. I'm just going to start out in the middle. So he loosed the waters upon the earth. Waves higher than the mountains rolled in upon the land, and continents broke asunder and sank beneath the seas. And still the rains fell and the waves rolled in. Looking about them, they saw they were on a little piece of land that had been the top of one of their high mountains. All else, as far as they could see, was water. This was all that remained of the third world. Yeah. The people looked to the west and south and could see small islands. No, these are the footprints of your journeys, said Sotokong. Actually, he said these are the stepping stones, is the actual words. Someone paraphrased this. So. He then let each of the islands sink beneath the waters, saying that the islands were the top of the mountains of the old world. When the day comes, and if the chosen people remember the meaning of their emergence, the stepping stones will again emerge to prove the truth of the legends, he said. I love that quote. Just love that quote.
Yeah.
And the story sounds familiar.
Yeah, right? So this is, you can't write that stuff off. We cannot write this stuff off. And we can't say, oh, well, they just copied that. What they copied it from? We just learned about the Younger Dryas event. We just learned about it. This is from, I believe it was the 1960s when that was translated by the elders, if I remember correctly.
Huh.
And that was the first
time. It's almost
time.
word for word the same story that's in the Gilgamesh Chronicles too.
It is. It absolutely is. Skeptics will say that, they had Christian influences, and okay, maybe they did, but did they have all these other influences? Because they literally just described everything that we would come to figure out one day about this event and the cataclysm. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting. And, these are the people who lived underground. They're the survivors, so to speak. There's a whole episode of that. You can go listen to it. But anyway, I thought it was interesting that how accurate that was to these stories. That
it is, and so many of these places.
Yeah,
it just screams these stories over and over and over again. They're so similar. They're so similar.
Yeah. So, coming close to the end of this article here, we find that the oldest evidence of humans in America, the fossilized footprints, they're 21 to 23,000 years old. They were found in New Mexico. Okay. They were children. There were teens, and there were animals. There were also in these footprints, and this is how we know they're that old. There were remains of seeds. So they actually know how old this was. This isn't a guess. This isn't some, it's probably 5,000 years old. No, it's 23,000 years old. It's 21 to 23,000. And when you get down to 21 to 23,000 years, you're splitting hairs. Who cares?
You are.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. But, and another controversial paper, and this was my favorite, it claimed that there was evidence of early habitation that existed 130,000 years old ago. It was 130,000 years old, but it was disputed, and some of the skeptics basically said that it was a natural process that could have led to
tool-like remains.
Yeah, tool-like
right.
remains.
This was the tool-like remains one where they said that
tool-like remains.
Erosion could have caused this.
Erosion causes tool-like remains in charcoal and bone markings. Come on, guys, you got to do better than that. You've really got to do better than that.
Those are two very specific items
that we're told to look for. We're actually told to look for tool marks, and yet
not just that, but we're told to look for charcoal and coal and bone etchings.
Yes, absolutely. And so when we find it, and it happens to be older than what you want it to be, well, now it's a natural process. It can't exist. It's not possible. It's Göbekli Tepe syndrome is what it is.
Yeah.
Just give it time. Give it time, and all of a sudden it's going to wind up being a whole big expose will be written up about how all of these theories that have been challenged for ages were right.
I think you're absolutely right, man. And, just for the fun of it, I did do a little bit of wondering, and we talked about this a little bit before, but never to this extent. What would happen if we just disappeared today? What proof would there be that we were actually here?
Oh man, just we've talked about some of this a little bit in the past. Like, one, the organic matter would disappear within a month, unless you're like in some of the colder regions where like the Inuit live. But like you're still the rate of speed at which the planet will reclaim Earth is mind-blowing.
Yeah, there's also specific processes that have to happen for fossilization to occur. So
and almost none of those would take place.
Yeah. We'd probably just be gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it was Alan Wiseman. He wrote the book, A World Without Us, and pretty good book from what I understand for the people who are into this kind of stuff. But he said that basically a common house would begin to fall apart as water eventually leaked into the roofs around the flashings of road. The woods and rust and nails would lead to sagging walls and eventually collapse. And after 500 years, all that would be left in that area would be aluminum and dishwasher parts, stainless steel cookware, and plastic handles. Now, it's only 500 years, guys.
Yeah.
The longest lasting evidence on Earth of a human presence would be radioactive material, ceramics, bronze statues, Mount Rushmore, and in space, of course, we have our probes and whatnot. They're out there that'll actually outlive, and but that's just ancient alien stuff for some aliens in the future. See what I did there? Tom. Yeah. But basically what he says is that now they just account for that it's just laying there, right? So we're not putting in earth changes. So let's add the earth changes to it. Vegetation, storms, fires, frost, rust, earthquakes, and burrowing animal activity would erase most of our visible traces within 1,000 years. But the ruins of some massive concrete structures might remain for millennia. Pollution record might be found after millions of years if the aliens knew where to look and could interpret the geochemical results. So after 1 million years, there's no proof that we were ever here, except a little thin strata layer, just tiny little strata layer. And you'd have to be looking at that to actually, so what are the chances that someone hadn't, just plowed through that strata layer? Well, I mean, we're doing it every day.
We do it all the time.
I mean, come on. So basically, guys, what we're saying is there's no proof you're here.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
1 second we're here, 1,000 years later, there's no trace, no sign.
You remember that show on the History Channel? It was called Life After People.
Loved
Oh
that
yeah, it
show.
was such a great show.
Love that show.
But that CGI is really dated, but it's still interesting to go back
great.
and watch it.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, guys, I think that, to me, ancient civilizations, we're just going to keep finding more and more and more pieces of this puzzle. There's going to be skeptics who come out and, it's going to challenge them. And some of them will be good skeptics. They'll actually present evidence and data and maybe even help find the answers. But there are going to be those who are just irate that this stuff can't be real because it just simply goes against what they have been taught so long.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe they built all of their structures out of wood. Maybe that's why we can't find anything. We don't know because there's no evidence. At least not yet.
Yeah, we have no idea.
It's true. It's very true.
I mean, there's that giant pyramid outside of St. Louis that was made completely out of dirt.
That's Cahokia. Yeah.
Yep. Cahokia.
Cahokia. Yeah. Cahokia is, they still argue about that. I mean,
They do. It's very contentious.
The evidence to me, we didn't even go into some of the, the Aztec myths and legends of their ancient legends, but there was a lost land there as well.
Yep.
And what was that? Aslan? I can't remember the name of it exactly right now, but
Did
either
they also
way,
worship Quetzalcoatl?
well, Quetzalcoatl was not so much worshipped as just simply accepted as a supreme being of some sort, maybe, possibly, or traveling. I don't know. It depends on how many people you talk to about that. Uh-oh, you said his name. It depends on how many people you talk to about it and what context you're talking about Quetzalcoatl in, because there's the messenger, there's the savior Quetzalcoatl, then there's the destroyer Quetzalcoatl. So there's all these different mythologies about it. But basically, Quetzalcoatl comes to the shore, has superior technology and teaches people, and then goes away and promises to come back again at some point in the future.
I know that Birdman was also present at Cahokia too. There's actually a guy who was buried like Birdman.
No, the bird cult is huge, massive. Yeah, actually, So there's a lot of that, and I'm purposefully not going into the whole Quetzalcoatl thing. By the way, I'm trying not to because
that's a whole rabbit hole. So
yeah, it totally is, because there's evidence that says that that's possibly even symbolism at this point. So
it's true. There's a lot of these flying humanoid effigies,
feathered serpents coming down from the sky.
Feathered serpents.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's all I got for you this week. Let's find out who who's in the position, man.
That's what I'm grabbing right now, actually.
Who's going to take home the prize? And while Joe's doing that, I'm going to remind you guys, make sure that you're hitting that subscribe button. Make sure that you're also watching this show. If you are listening to it, get over there on the YouTube, go down there, click that little link, and it's going to pop up, and you're going to be able to see us. And there's going to be more content available there to you. You'll be able to watch the podcast. You'll be able to watch some of our investigations. You'll be able to watch some of the new series. Matter of fact, there's a new series that's coming up.
There is a new series that's coming out.
And the boys just got to see a preview of it tonight. And what do you think?
We've been filming for the new series now for almost a year.
Yeah.
The revisit to one of the sites, and then some of the stuff that we've just done. It comes up to being around a year's worth of work that's been put in. So we're excited for you guys to see this stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you do have that little notification bell there, because as soon as it comes up, then you get a little bleep. And is that how it goes? Is it like bleep, something like that?
Depends on what kind of phone you got. My phone, I have an Android, and it goes BDDD.
BDD. Okay. Yeah. Well, whatever your little pocket robot does, it'll tell you that there's a new.
Excuse me, that is Pocket Overlord.
Yeah, pocket overload.
Electronic dog leash.
That's what they are.
Yeah.
Whatever your technology of choice, be it a watch or brain implant, either way, you'll know that we just put a new something up there, and you're going to want to go see it, because sometimes, and I say sometimes because we're getting really close now, we're going to be doing a little something, a little drawing here real soon, right?
We are. We're coming up on that soon, man. If everybody that's listening right now on the audio, and some of you folks who are watching who haven't subscribed yet on YouTube, if all of you guys would subscribe between now and Christmas, we could have the giveaway right around Christmas. And actually, if we all subscribed now, like, we'd be way over the number. But
that's great, though. Do it.
Yeah, it's great.
And then once we get that, we're going to do drawing, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely. So we could do it. Technically, we could do it before Christmas, but at the rate everything's going right now, Christmas was probably going to be around the time we do the giveaway.
Yeah, so it's going to be looking pretty good for you guys. And if we happen to hit the magical number on our hours, then it's going to be even better. So another drawing, and a really cool phase 2 begins.
That's right. Well, I got our lineup here, and
let's hear it. Let's hear it.
As far as countries go, everything kind of stayed the same. We've got the U.S., the UK, Australia, Canada, and Germany. There's our top 5 in order. Then when we get to cities, we had a good little upset. We got one city that showed up on the map that hasn't been on here forever. Like, it's been a long time since old Sarasota, Florida has showed up on our radar, but you guys came in second place this week.
Wow.
Yeah, tons and tons of downloads coming out of that area. Thank you guys. We really appreciate it. Sarasota, Florida. Shout out to you guys out there on the Gulf Coast. We love y'all. Seattle, Washington is number 4. Huge support from Seattle, Washington. You guys never fail us week in, week out. You're somewhere in the top 5. Columbus, Ohio, you guys are back over in the number 5 position. You all were at number 1. Y'all had it clinched. And then Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, PA, came in from behind and cut it all down and took the number 1 position. So Pittsburgh, PA, you guys have held the number 1 position. I think this is your 6th week. Not in a row, not consecutive, but it is your 6th week total since we've been keeping track of this that you guys have come out on top. Great job. Keep sharing it out, everybody. Everybody that's out there, share it with your friends. We'll shout out your city. And we're still waiting on one of y'all. Give us a shout out. Get a hold of us. Go hit us up in an email. Let us know that you're one of the ones sharing it in your town. You never know what might show up at your door.
No, you never know.
So, with that said, guys, remember, like Ron said, go do the like, share, subscribe thing. Brandon, thanks for joining us. It's been awesome having you on the show with us this week for the very first time. Again, this is our official Wild and Weird field correspondent, Brandon Wills. Great having you on, man.
That's been fun.
And it's just been great show tonight. I had a blast. Before we leave and wrap it, what do you think the possibility of these islands sitting out there, both of you guys? What do you think the possibility is of these lost continents actually being based in truth?
99%.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer for me.
All right.
I think that's it. And I think
says it, guys. Sound on below and tell us what you think.
Tell us what you think. And, if you happen to find anything out there in the Appalachian Hills, by the way, let us know.
Oh,
absolutely. So. If you guys have a sighting or if you found some weird remnants of ancient civilizations, you can get a hold of us at wildandweirdwv.com. Just run over there and hit the contact us or report a sighting tab. It's going to send you to the same place. You're going to fill out the little info graphic that's placed up there, and it'll email us directly, and we will get back with you as quickly as possible. If you want to support us in any kind of format, head over to wildandweirdwv.com and hit that shop tab. You are going to not be disappointed because there's new merchandise coming to the store. And last but not least, stay wild.